Hey, Zane Griggs here. So today I want to explain why a low-calorie diet doesn't really work when you're eating your typical kind of diet plan with like a higher carb, what I would call a higher carb diet, where you're eating anywhere from 45 to 60% carb, and I'd say that's a pretty controlled carb, typically recommended diet. Okay, you get from a nutritionist, it's going to be in that 45 to 60% range. Of course, there's a lot of people out there we know that eat more than that as far as their percentage of carb. But if you're having if you're doing a low calorie diet, okay, the idea is that by reducing calories, okay, you're going to supplement with body fat and start burning off body fat to make up for those missing calories. But it doesn't always work that way. And if you're eating a higher carb diet, like I say, anywhere from 45 to 60% or more coming from carbs, the reason is pretty clear why you're not going to tap into body fat, and that is insulin. So when you eat carbohydrates, your body releases insulin, and because usually you've eaten more than you can process at one time, you're going to burn off at one time. So to prevent issues like sugar coma or whatever, too much sugar toxicity, you release insulin and remove that sugar, and you typically either store it as glycogen in muscles or you store it in fat cells. Okay, so you're storing fat. You also stop fat release or stop fat burning, because if you have all that energy in your system, why would your body continue to release fat during that time? It's not, because you've got enough energy going through your system as it is. Why would it release fat to turn into energy? Okay, because you've got too much. You're removing it, so you're shutting down fat burning. So if you try a low calorie diet, but you're still eating carbs 3 or 4 times a day, okay, which as a primary source of your food intake, your insulin's being released, and you probably haven't developed that fat burning metabolism where your body's more easily shifts into a fat burning mode. So when you do come down from the insulin does come down, you're hungry again, you've got cravings, but more importantly, when you're reducing calories and you're stopping the fat burning because your insulin's going up and taking longer to come back down, and so it's not adjusting, it's not releasing body fat to supplement, well, you're basically just underfeeding, which is different than fasting, because fasting does allow fat burning. Low carb, you can get to where you're underfeeding and you're supplementing with fat because your insulin stays low, and it allows fat burning, and after 2 or 3 weeks of doing that, you actually develop a more efficient fat burning metabolism where you're going to burn more fat, okay, and you're going to feel satiated, you feel satisfied from what you're eating, and actually maybe naturally eat less because your body's supplementing with body fat. But on a typical diet, you're cutting off both. You're reducing your calorie intake, and you're impeding your body's ability to release fat and get more efficient at burning fat, which is what the whole point, okay? So to weight loss, that's what you do. You want to burn fat. So if you don't have the fat available, you don't have the calorie intake available, you start wasting tissue. You start breaking down muscle, you create cravings, and then your body adapts to it over time and actually lowers its metabolism. So it lowers the amount of energy it needs. So basically your energy is reduced. Great. You're less energetic. Your metabolism drops, so when you have all these cravings going, so it compensates, okay, because it's starving, because you're keeping the fat away from it and you're keeping your caloric intake low. So it lowers metabolism, and then when you do go back to a normal diet, or you have a special meal or whatever happens, you go back to eating a normal amount, your metabolism is lower than it was before, and you actually gain more weight. And you'll see this happen with people who have tried this kind of cyclically, okay, so over different cycles in their life, or over the course of a year, tried a low calorie diet, but they haven't adjusted the carb intake, and they haven't really gotten into a fat burning mode. They get on a yo-yo diet. So they basically try to drop weight, and they drop a little bit initially, but then they lose that it's just hard to do, because it's just hard to maintain, because you're underfeeding, you're starving, and then their weight goes back up because they go back to eating normal, and before their metabolism comes back up to match, they've started putting weight on. So it creates cravings, it lowers metabolism, and you start eating normal, and you get the yo-yo and put weight back on. So it's not a good cycle, and I'm sure if you haven't experienced this yourself, you probably are familiar with people who have experienced it. And you can see this even with if you're overweight, or you know someone's overweight and you're hungry all the time, that is because your body's not accessing your fat stores. And it's not necessarily because you're at the moment overeating. Okay, you may be, but even if when you diet, okay, if you haven't changed how you diet and haven't changed the way your body is utilizing fat, whether it's burning in mode or in a storing mode, because insulin is high and always being stimulated, you're going to keep storing fat. You're not going to release it, even though you may have an excess of it. You're not going to release it. Your body's going to be genuinely hungry. You're hungry. Okay? Your organs need fuel. You're withholding fat, and if you start reducing calories, you're hungry. You wake up hungry. You're hungry every 2 or 3 hours, and you've got plenty of fuel you're carrying around that you'd like to get rid of, and you're impeding access to it through what you're eating and the constant stimulation of insulin. Okay, so it doesn't necessarily have to be excessive, okay, but it's a type of calories. A calorie is not a calorie. We do not have a closed system. Our bodies are not a closed system where the same type of, all fuel affects us the same way. Okay, different fuels affect our body chemistry different ways. So to say a calorie is just ignorant. It is not taking into effect biochemistry and the effects of insulin and several other hormones that not only affect fat burning, but our hunger hormones and estrogen, all these other hormones that are affected by how we eat. So if you know someone that's suffered struggled with, I should say, yo-yo dieting, please share this with them. And if you have any questions, comment below or message me directly. I've been a fitness weight loss coach for about 19 years now. So, reach out. I'm happy to help. Love to answer questions. Talk to you later.